The Remsen Demonstration. What you're going to see here today is the Remsen Demonstration, and I'll start by reading an excerpt from Remsen's biography. This is him describing an experiment that he first performed at the age of 12. It says, "While reading a textbook of chemistry, I came upon the statement, nitric acid acts upon copper. I was tired of reading such absurd stuff, and I determined to see what this meant. Having nitric acid and copper, I had only to learn what the words act upon meant. Then the statement, nitric acid acts upon copper, would be something more than mere words. In the interest of knowledge, I was even willing to sacrifice one of the few copper cents then in my possession. I put one of them on the table, opened the bottle, marked nitric acid, poured some of the liquid on the copper, and prepared to make an observation." In this setup, you see that on the right-hand side, we have some copper in the Erlenmeyer flask, and this will mimic Remsen's experiment. We'll also modify it by looking further into the reaction, and on the left-hand side, you can see that we have a beaker with a pink-colored solution, and it contains base, sodium hydroxide, and phenolphthalein. I'm now going to add the nitric acid. While observing the reaction, it's important to look at both the right-hand side and the left-hand side and note any changes. This reaction also models the production of acid rain. The brown gas, which is a nitrogen dioxide gas, when it comes into contact with water, will produce an acid. And so as you can see on the left-hand side, the base that was previously there is neutralized. The brown gas is one of the emissions from our cars, so it's something that we strive with new vehicles to remove from the emissions. While you continue to observe, I'll read Remsen's comments after doing the experiment. "But what was this wonderful thing which I beheld? The scent was already changed, and it was no small change either. A greenish-blue liquid foamed and fumed over the scent and over the table. The air in the neighborhood of the performance became colored dark red. A great colored cloud arose. This was disagreeable and suffocating. How should I stop this? I tried to get rid of the objectionable mess by picking it up and throwing it out the window, which I had meanwhile opened. I learned another fact. Nitric acid not only acts upon copper, but it acts upon fingers. The pain led to another unpremeditated experiment. I drew my fingers across my trousers, and another fact was discovered. Nitric acid acts upon trousers. Taking everything into consideration, that was the most impressive experiment, and relatively probably the most costly experiment I have ever performed." Now in this last stage of the experiment, there's a pressure differential, and there is less pressure coming from the gas being pushed from the left to the right. So if you look carefully, you can now see the liquid from the beaker crawling back up the tube because a vacuum has been created. And you'll have one final observation to make once the solution makes its way to the flask. note in the Erlenmeyer flask, you now have a bit of a blue tinge to the solution rather than a green tinge. And that concludes the Remsen demonstration, a colorful slice of chemistry's history.